One of the biggest costs of illegal immigration is crime. Not every illegal immigrant is a criminal, but there are lots of criminals who are, in fact, illegal immigrants. On November 16th, 2010, a young man named Joshua Wilkerson was beaten, tortured, and murdered. His body was thrown in a field, set on fire by Hermilo Morales, an illegal immigrant in the United States from Belize. Just a few months before the killing, Morales had been convicted of harassing his ex-girlfriend, but the authorities didn't ask about his illegal immigration status, and they did not deport him. Laura Wilkerson is Joshua's mother.
My son Josh was 18 years old. He was a senior in high school. I had 3 children, so he was the baby of our family. He'd never been in trouble. He loved the Lord, and he had a good relationship with Jesus. And he was just a good kid. You know, he was trying to find out what he wanted to do, but he had considered going to the Air Force.
So how exactly did this horrific murder occur?
Well, Joshua didn't come home from school one day. I was off work early at about 1 o'clock, and Joshua always answers my phone or text messages. So I text messaged him and said, hey, let me know where you are, and no text message back. And I don't know, mom's instinct or something said something's wrong. And so it really made me start, I don't know, my anxiety just ramped up. And I called his dad and said, look, there's something wrong. Josh isn't answering. You know, this is very unusual. Even though he was 18, he's just that kid. And so I happened to turn one way going home and looked over, and I saw his truck parked beside a dumpster behind a strip center. His dad called the police, and they came out there. The guy that killed him was in that parking lot, and he had Joshua's truck key in his pocket. They roped it off as a crime scene, and then they came and told us to go home, that they were taking his truck as a crime scene, and that they had a suspect in custody. And, you know, when you hear all this, your just mind's like, what? You know, none of it makes sense at the time.
And how did he know the killer?
He went to school with him. He was a classmate of his, and apparently Josh had given him a ride home a couple of times. The lady where the kid was living, he wasn't living with his parents. They had kicked him out of their house, and he was living with another classmate. And that lady got him to tell where he put Josh, and so he took the policeman and showed him where Joshua's body was.
What was the condition of Josh's body when they found it?
When they found Joshua, he was burned, tied up with rope, 13 loops around his neck that went through his back belt loop to his hands and feet, so that he could carry him over his shoulder like that. So he was bound like that way and burned. He kicked Joshua in the stomach so hard, and it sent Joshua's spleen into his spine, and it cut it in two. And then next he punched him in the face, and it broke all of Joshua's nose, his nasal cavities, and he then hit him in the head with the closet rod 3 or 4 times until it broke in pieces. And then once Josh was still trying to get up off the ground, he strangled him until he died. Then he took him and tied him up and put him over his shoulder and put him in the back seat of Joshua's truck. And he drove around town and bought $2 worth of gas and put him in a field and set him on fire.
So originally, what did they think the motive was as to why this happened?
They didn't really have one. You know, in most cases do have a motive, and they really did not have one, other than he did it. The killer told them a lot of motives that were lies. And I found out after the motive was that he wanted Joshua's truck to scrap for some money.
And when did they find out that the murderer was in the country illegally?
I remember them telling me, you know, I said, where are his parents? Once they told me, where, who is he and where are his parents? And they said to me, we can't ask him. And I said, what do you mean you can't ask him? And he said, well, they're not in the country legally and we're not allowed to ask them. And so that's when I first understood about sanctuary cities and the policies that are, whether it was a written policy or just a verbal policy about you don't ask people where they're from. But
have you had any communications with the killer at all?
I did. I went to see him after the trial. I had a lady who facilitated me being able to go see him, and we sat across the room at just a little coffee table, and I wanted to see who he was and what he was like, and I forgave him, and I told him that I forgive you 100% for what you did to Josh. I know Josh would want me to do that, and I'm called to do that. And I left that meeting 100 pounds lighter, knowing that I'm not forever connected to him, that his choices are his choices, and everybody suffered for him, including himself. I wish he was out and Josh was alive, but he wasted his life too.
I'm Ben Shapiro, and this is the divided states of Biden, invasion on the southern border. Watch now on Daily Wire Plus.